Hi everyone, and welcome to chemistry lesson number 8, and today we're going to be talking about the properties of metals. So just to warm up, why don't you go back to the attachment PDF and just click on these two globes and watch the videos. Okay, so go back to the attachment, click on these two globes, watch the videos, and then come back to me. Okay, so I hope that you were able to watch those two videos and that you kind of just enjoyed some visuals there. Okay, and just as a side note, you are going to be completing the quiz assignment, the multiple choice assignment, and you can get a direct link to the assignment just by clicking right here, okay, on your PDF file. Okay, let's start our official lesson. So what are the properties of metals? And so we are going to be zoning in on a few words for vocabulary, okay? But one of the things is that metals are conductive, okay? And so they pass electricity through them, and they would, for example, make the light bulb light up, okay? So copper wires are used and they transmit or they pass electricity, which helps with our, and it's called conductive, okay? Over here, this guy is forging something, so he's using or shaping a metal, and so he's hammering it, and this is called malleability. Okay, so there's some key words right here. So at this point now, you really want to pay attention to the little details that we're talking about, um, just because you know that these items, the stuff that you're learning is going to be on the quiz assignment, those multiple choice questions. Okay, so start kind of memorizing, getting more familiar with these key terms and the facts that we're reading through. Okay, so a conductor can be a conductor of heat, and it could also be a conductor of electricity. Okay, now I know that you don't have this paper if you didn't receive this in the mail, but don't worry, just follow along and feel free to watch over this video again, maybe even once or twice if you'd like to, just to get more familiar and so that the facts kind of get absorbed into your brain. Okay, the other key term is metallic luster or luster. If you remember, it's the opposite of dull, so shiny versus dull. And so it's the shine of a metal is called metallic luster. And then malleability, or if something is malleable, that it can be hammered into different shapes. Okay, so let's get into some more of this text. Okay, so scientists divide all element into two types, metals and non-metals. They do this because most metals have certain types of properties that are the same. Most non-metals share properties that are also the same. And so I'm just going to show you the periodic table. Okay, so for example, over here, the metals are on the left side of the periodic table and they share certain properties, and then the non-metals are usually are found on the right-hand side of the periodic table. Okay, and they also share certain properties. You probably know many metals: tin, iron, silver, gold, copper, and nickel. You would probably know if something is not a metal. So for example, if I gave you a chunk of wood, I think you would kind of intuitively know, hey, this isn't metal, right? But how would you categorize or explain what a metal is? What are the properties of metals? Okay, and then we're going to go into that. Okay, so let's just take a look at some of these metal samples. Okay, so each of these are metal samples, for example, or these ones right here. There might be gold, brass, for example. This is probably brass. This is actually called an alloy, and so is steel. So steel is an alloy, which means that you mix together different metals. Okay, it's kind of like making a solution. So if I mix salt and water, okay, they're just mixed together, but they can actually be separated still. They're not chemically bonded. Okay, so what are the properties that actually make metals metals? Let's discuss them. So metals are solid at room temperature. So each of those pictures that I just showed you, they were metal rods. So think about iron, copper, or gold, or aluminum. They are all solids. only one metal is not a solid at room temperature. That is mercury. Okay, so everyone, you're going to have to remember mercury. Mercury is a special metal because it is liquid at room temperature. Okay, so let's just take a look at some pictures of mercury. Okay, so here's a jar of mercury, and you can actually dip your finger right into the mercury. Okay, you could just pour it, okay, from a spoon or whatever. Okay, so there's another word for mercury. You might know the Marvel super superhero comic, okay? Quicksilver. Quicksilver is another name for mercury because it flows really easily. And Hg, if you remember, is the symbol for mercury. Okay, so mercury is the only metal that is not solid at room temperature. Okay, so you're going to have to kind of remember that and be able to recognize and pick out mercury out of all the different metals. If I were to name iron, copper, gold, aluminum, and mercury, you'd have to be able to pick out that mercury is the only one that is not solid. Okay, that is a liquid. Metals are silver gray in color. So that is the color of all metal elements. So these are elements, except for two, copper and gold. Copper and gold, gold and copper are not silver gray. Okay, and we've seen this before. So some of these are actually looking a little bit not so silvery, but generally, right? Um, you can see that the majority of these items here are all silver gray. The main ones that are not are copper and gold. Okay, everything else is silver. Some of these have actually tarnished, so they've actually been oxidized, kind of like forming a rust, okay, which is why they are different colors a little bit, okay? But copper and gold are the only ones that are not silver gray. And I think we know these colors. We can even identify this as a copper color or a gold color because we take the color of it from the name. Okay, so I think those are pretty easy to memorize. Notice that these ones are non-metals. They're on the right-hand side, and there's a lot more color variation for those non-metals. Okay, but today we are focusing only on the metals. Okay, next up, metals are good conductors of heat and electricity. This means that heat and electricity travel well through the metals, okay? And so I'm just going to show you a picture of heat conductivity. Okay, so for example, we put this metal pan on the oven, okay, or on the stove, on purposely. Pots are made of metal because they pass the heat really well. If a pan has a metal handle, we have to sometimes be very careful and we hold on to it with an oven mitt or with a cloth, right? Because we know if we touch it, this metal part of it will conduct the electricity really easily. If you have um, a pan handle and it's covered in plastic, then we don't need to cover it with a piece of cloth or something because this is called an insulator. So the opposite of a conductor, which is what a metal is an insulator, okay? And so we wouldn't have to worry about touching the handle there, okay? This part does not conduct heat well, but the metal part conducts heat very well, okay? This is going to be a question on the assignment. Okay, also electricity. Okay, so here, for example, we have a simple electric circuit and the wire is actually made of copper metal on the inside. Okay, on the outside, we cover it with usually some plastic tubing, right, or some rubber because the rubber protects us from electric shocks. But the inside is made of copper wire and that wire transmits or passes electricity and it will make this light bulb light up if we have attached the circuit properly. Okay, next up, metals have a shiny look, and that shine is called metallic luster. Okay, so everyone say luster. Okay, so luster just means that something is shiny. It is the opposite of dull. Okay, so these are all pictures of things that are kind of shiny. Or if you think of jewelry, for example, jewelry is very shiny, silver or gold jewelry. Okay, that's called luster. Most metals, okay, most of them are malleable. This means that you can hammer or press a piece of metal into a different shape without the metal breaking. Okay, so this is an example of malleability. So if you were to take a hammer onto a chunk of gold, okay, you could actually press and hammer that gold into a very, very thin sheet. This is called gold leaf, and they use this for decoration. It's very expensive though, okay? Gold can actually be hammered so thinly. I think I've even heard that they can make it into just a few atoms of thickness. That's how malleable gold is. It's pretty amazing. Okay, just the idea that you can um, hammer and press these things, okay, into wires. This is actually called ductility, but anyways, the idea is that you can actually press them into different shapes. Okay, and so the idea here is that metals have many uses because of their properties. For example, bridges, automobiles, ships, pots and pans, food cans, appliances, and jewelry are all mostly made of metal. Okay, how many other uses of metal can you think of? Okay, okay, so I'm going to use these captions, okay? These are actually questions on the quizzes assignment, but some of these are a little bit confusing, so we're going to go through them and practice them together first, okay? So we have a bunch of different captions here, okay? So let's just take a look at these. So this is a metal rod, but this one we're pouring a liquid, okay? This one is not the most descriptive, but the idea here is that these are all different colors. Okay, over here we've got a pot, a metal pot, and it's heating up on a stove. Here we have a circuit, and it's making the light bulb light up. Here we have a hammer and a piece of metal, and it's getting hammered, this piece of metal. And then lastly, we have a polish right here, and we're polishing up this metal part of the bike and making it really, really shiny. Okay, so let's look at these captions. So metals are malleable. Which picture would that go with? Okay, and so maybe I will actually, okay, so which picture shows that metals are malleable? Okay, so metals are malleable. Malleable means that you can hammer things. Okay, so this one is metals are malleable. Okay, all metals are solid except for mercury. Okay, so mercury is the one that you can pour, okay? So all metals are solid except for mercury. This is the picture that shows that. Metals are good conductors of heat, okay? So this one on the stove top, I used a metal pot because it conducts the heat and it passes the heat directly to the food. Metals have a shiny metallic luster. Luster, we're polishing up this metal and making it shiny right there. Metals are good conductors of heat. That one there. Oh, sorry, good conductors of electricity. Sorry, electricity. This one is the one right here, okay? And then all metals are silver gray except for gold and copper. Okay, so if you want to just pause this, study these pictures, that way you don't get mixed up when you do the assignment. Okay, so the rest of this, I know you don't have these papers, so don't worry. I am going to instead ask you to do some of these questions. I've just chosen the most important questions, and I put them on this quizzes assignment, okay? And so what you do is go back to your PDF file, the attachment on the email, and please click right here when you're ready. And just remember that you can try and retry those assignments, okay, until you get a good mark, and then you can submit that mark to me. And a special shout out to students that have already attempted the previous periodic table of elements assignment. Okay, so shout out to Kurt, to Serena, Nelson, Anson, Cody, and Sajad. Okay, and again, everyone, please feel free to do the assignment a few times. Okay, so notice that some students did it multiple times, right? Keep doing this. You might not do like you might not get the mark that you like at the very, very beginning. And I know that the periodic table of elements, that assignment was pretty challenging, that fill in the blanks one, okay? And so feel free just to try it out a few times until you feel really comfortable. Okay, everyone, take care and I'll see you on the next lesson, okay? Please feel free to email me if you have any questions at all or comment in the classroom, the Google Classroom, and I'll get right back to you, okay? Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.